Welcome to the State of Our Union, the podcast where real love meets real life. I am your host, Karen Williams, author, speaker, and wife of over 30 years. This is the space for honest conversations around marriage, commitment, conflict, healing, and learning how to choose each other daily. And it's even during the times when life gets heavy, because love isn't just about the vows we take. It's about the work we're willing to do together. Each week, we'll have conversations that inspire, challenge, and remind you that even through loss, disappointment, and change, your relationship can grow stronger. So, wherever you're listening from, whether you're driving, cooking, working out, or lying in bed wondering if you're alone in this, just know you're not alone. So, take a breath, lean in, and let's talk about the real state of our union. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It. I am your host, Karen Williams, author, speaker, and coach. And if you are new here, um, just a little bit about me. I am married, been married for about 33 years this year. Well, 34 years this year. Don't let my husband know that I cannot remember how long we've been married. But we, mom, grandma, all the things, speaker, coach, all of that. I live here in Vegas, and today my guest is Ayaka Honda, and listen, I am so excited to get into her story. She's going to talk a little bit about marriage and some of the things that she has overcome to get to this point in her marriage. I hope you listen in, tune in, grab a friend, grab your coffee, and let's get started. Ayaka, I want to introduce you to the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Karen. I'm excited. This is my very first podcast. So
Yay.
podcast virgin. Um, I am also a Vegas resident, not originally, but I consider it home now.
Yeah.
Um, I have been married for 12 years, together with my husband for 16,
Oh,
and we have 4 kids together.
awesome. Awesome. Yeah, same. We have 4 children as well. I guess I can't really call them children anymore. They're all grown people. But yes, it is a pleasure to have you here. Um, and so this is season 2 of my podcast, The State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It. But season 2, I wanted to just do things a little differently. All of season 1 was about couples who have actually gone through the process and gotten to the other side of it and teaching couples how to do it well. So
Mm,
this season, I said, this is her side of the union. What are some of the things that wives are actively doing that can help those other wives that may or may not know what to do or heard about what to do, not sure how to implement that. And I always know that we don't always have all the answers, but hey, once we gather a few women together, we can come up with something that we can actually activate for our life. And
yeah.
so we will dive right in. So during the application process, you shared that there wasn't really a defining moment for your marriage. You did a couple of things. You actually decided to choose being married daily. You honored your commitment, which led to a deeper level of love. So can you talk a little bit about that? What does it look like to actually say choose
Yeah.
marriage?
Gosh, I think that in the busyness of life, and previously I've started working recently, but
Mhm.
previously I was a stay-at-home mom for um 10 years, about 10 years.
Okay.
And I think that I had really kind of started to get into this mode of fairness in marriage. And
Mhm.
if I can truly be honest, I think you have to throw fairness out the window in terms of like nobody each of us are tired. It doesn't serve anybody to claim I'm more tired than you or I'm putting in more work than you. It really instantly defeats the room, you know? It
Exactly.
makes the other person feel defeated, like they're not doing enough.
Mhm.
It makes you feel like you're entitled to some kind of award, reward, recognition, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Um, and it's hard to sort of in those early years let go of that ego that
Yes.
you have the answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But I love that word you said, not love it in the sense of I agree, but in the sense that we do have to let go of that fairness. For one, this is not high school. The
yeah.
the world is not fair first. Let's
Yes.
establish that.
Right. Yeah.
The world is not fair. But when we're talking about our spouse, this is our partner that we say we are going to show up for the rest of our life. We made that commitment. We decided we were going to have a whole wedding around it and celebrate the whole thing. So
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, we made that decision. And so in saying that, oh, this is not fair, or, again, like you said, there's a level of entitlement there that I'm
Oh,
supposed
yeah.
to something, and you are not doing as if to say there is a scorecard that
Yep.
we are ticking off those little boxes. Well, you did laundry last week. I'm not doing it this week. You
Yes.
know, and the thing is what that does, it doesn't feed into the oneness that is the goal of every marriage.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
So
think there's a learning curve to that. I don't think that and I think when we live in a society where we have bought into the idea that the statistic of marriage, like half of all marriages end in divorce, that we've bought into that statistic as an okay, um,
alternative.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That like
Yeah.
when it gets hard, that when it's not going your way, that when you're not having fun, that when it doesn't align with what you envisioned marriage to be,
Mhm. Mhm.
that you are just allowed to throw in the towel. And
Yeah.
walk away from it, and it doesn't speak to your character, it doesn't speak to outside of,
Mm.
like, very egregious things that you should absolutely leave a marriage for,
Right.
you have to have the just enough grit to say, "This is really hard."
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
forever type of thing, and forever is we don't have forever,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
When in our lives do we have forever? Just even in aging, it's fleeting. Like, this is, like, one of the only sort of things in life, like, the family unit that you're like, "I'm here for life."
Yes.
Everything else you can choose to pick and go. I'm gonna be a member here, I'm gonna be a member there. I've left here, I'm moving elsewhere,
Yeah.
everything else is temporary. Um, and so I think we have to be I wish that I had more mentors coming into
Ye
marriage,
yes.
to really speak to the reality of you're at year 1, you are babies. You don't
Yeah.
know what marriage is.
Yeah.
You really truly don't know what marriage is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, you are 2 separate people trying to become one. That takes
Mhm.
time. That takes so
Yes.
much time. And I'm still in that,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know?
It takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, emotional energy. And there's some days when you don't have the emotional bandwidth to even accommodate another person.
Yeah.
But yes, this is the commitment that you made. And to speak on the point that you made, we're all babies coming into this, you know, yeah, some will say, well, Karen, you and Rob have been married for 34 years. How, you guys must really have it all together. You must have done something right. The one when we did our original episode, my husband and I sat down and we talked through and introduced ourselves to the audience. And some of the things we talked about was the things that the challenges that we faced coming in. I
Mhm.
came to the marriage, with one son. He came with two children, and we
Mm.
have one together. Now, you talk about a blended family.
Yeah.
Those children had their own mom, right?
Yeah,
My
yeah.
son, his own father. So there's, having that whole dynamic and the blending and all of that. And I always give, whenever I get the opportunity, I always give shout out to my husband's ex-wife. We've never had any issues in
That's
in the sense of how we blended the family. We were always in agreement with what was best for the children, always. And I always give a shout out to them because that is always, that's a lot of people said that's unheard of. But one of the things that we had decided from the beginning is, okay, we didn't want what didn't work in our other marriage because we
Mm,
both before. Now we know what we didn't want, but we had no idea what we actually wanted.
mm-hmm.
So that began the journey for the both of us. For us, we decided that okay, we are going to watch healthy marriages. How not necessarily. You said the word mentor earlier,
Mm-hmm.
um, and those people were our mentors. They just didn't know it, and so
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
watched how they interacted with each other. The marriages that we saw. Um, where wives really put their husbands down when they're not there. The thing that these husbands were saying about their wives when she wasn't present, we said, okay, we're not doing that. Now,
Yeah,
we didn't get involved in these people's lives. We just watched the people that
interact.
we needed to emulate, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
And I think going forward, we have to, one of the things that I do want younger couples to walk away with, if nothing else, is your marriage is not the exception. You're going to have those same
Uh-huh.
difficulties.
Yeah,
You're going to have those same difficulties. And so, you talked about, you touched on expectations for a little bit. And
yeah.
so I always want to have the conversation about, because we always go into marriage with some expectations, whether we say them or not. And the ones we don't say are what are called the unspoken expectations, are the ones that I always like to explore. So, what were some of your unspoken expectations going into marriage? Some of the things that you expected from him, what you expected marriage to be, to look like. Talk a
Oh,
little bit about that.
man. Gosh. I think in my naive, very early married life
Hmm.
that the getting married was the finish line. You know?
Ooh,
Like,
yeah.
we made it here. We both chose to be here. Um,
Hmm.
in the back of my mind, I knew, like, it was gonna be work, but
Right.
I had always been the mindset, like, "Well, we both chose this. We both really wanted to be married." In that early stage where you're like, "We are so in love. We
Yeah.
just can't wait to get married and just start our lives, and it's gonna be easy." You know?
Right.
It's
You're
gonna
in
be
love, right?
fun. And then when that first, difficulty hits, you're just like, "Whoa." Right?
Mhm.
Um, I think that I would be thanked for every little thing that I was doing
Yeah. Yeah.
or that it would be recognized.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm a huge, and this all goes down to like whatever, what's your love language too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, like, I love to be affirmed that I'm doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
if he didn't notice something,
Hmm.
it just really, and I think initially I didn't have the capacity to phrase it in a way that didn't, um, irritate the both of us. Like, I'm I just turned 42, and there are some times where I'm like, "I am getting in my own way. I am annoying myself at the things I get annoyed about," you know? And I'm like, "Man,
Yeah.
how do I grow myself in a way where I just gotta not get so annoyed about things?" Then you
Yeah.
think about, like, you do lay some kind of expectations from what you saw growing up too,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
Um, and my mom and I are extremely alike. Our birthdays are very close together and our personalities are very, very similar,
Mhm.
and not in the best way, you know?
Mhm.
I there was a lot of appeasing that was done
Mhm.
in my parents' marriage where my mom would, like, kinda throw a fit about something because it didn't go the way she wanted it, and my
Mhm.
dad is such a even-keeled, "It's
Yeah.
not a big deal." He really never showed anger,
Mhm.
except for a very few rare times,
Mhm.
that it upset him. Maybe as a kid, I just didn't clock either that they had arguments, and
Yeah.
I really, really never saw it. And so I think that going into marriage, I thought if I go into a very like base, kid, like I'm throwing a fit about something, that he would be like, oh, okay, you don't like that? We'll do it your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
early on, he was like, okay, whatever. I love you. Okay. It doesn't, but as he grew frustrated about the way I would handle things, he too would start to kind of fight back on that.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
wasn't used to. I was like, wait, my dad didn't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
that wasn't my dad.
Mhm.
My dad would be like, okay, fine. We do it your way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so figuring out personalities, and that, they often talk about like you marry someone like your father, right?
Yeah.
Or like someone totally not your father based on how you grew up.
Yeah. Yeah. We do bring in the what is it, the characteristics and the learning styles and the attachments and the love language. We bring all of those things from our, the way we were raised
Yeah.
into our marriage. Why? Even when we say things like, I will never be like my dad, I'll never be like my mom, we don't have different information to work on. So our newer path is like, oh, this is what I know. This is the direction we're gonna go.
Yeah.
We take that same behavior or mindset into marriage. Again, I threw a fit when I was 4, and my dad always do what I want him to do. So why wouldn't I not do it over here? First of all, I don't even know anything different.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't know anything different. So let me see if this works. The thing with that is, I think as adults, what end up happening in marriage is we don't have the language that we need to eventually ask for what we actually need. And so those unspoken expectations, that's why we call them unspoken, because we go into marriage, they are expectations because I expect you to love me a certain way, but I don't even know how to ask you for that. And
Yeah.
so, one episode that I recorded earlier, we were talking about how we handle conflict. My go-to for conflict was, I don't speak to you for about 3 days. I'm
Mm.
done. I'm shut down. We're not having this conversation. And my husband's looking at me because he's the engineer. So his mindset is about the
We
tech.
fix it.
We want to fix something. We got to get to a solution, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm shutting down the whole conversation for the next 3 days because I have nothing to say. But it wasn't just that I didn't have something to say. I didn't know how to say it.
Mm.
And that definitely got in the way of how we connected and how we communicated, in that early age. My guest on the show, she said she was done for about a week. She didn't speak for about a week. I said,
Yeah.
okay, I wasn't that bad. But again, it's how we come into marriage with the expectations from, childhood and, previous relationships, instead of having the conversation with our
Yeah.
current.
I feel like also there's just a lot of noise right now with social media, and a lot of um maybe both qualified and unqualified people
Mhm. Yeah.
modeling like this is what should be happening. There's a lot of like husband and wife couples who have active social media channels that
Mhm.
you know model certain things based on what's worked or what's not worked for them, rooted
Yeah.
in maybe some kind of ideology,
Mhm.
whether religion or some other
Yeah.
um but it can get very it can get loud.
Yes. Yes.
There are some
Absolutely.
things that you hear that you're like, yes, that resonates with me,
Mhm.
whether or not that's right, whether or not
Right.
that's actually good for your marriage, because it
Ex
satisfies what you feel like isn't just to you. You're like, yes,
Mhm.
that's, and then you send it to your husband. You
Mhm.
share the reel with your husband, like, see, this is this is what a good marriage looks like, and
Yep.
you could
This
be
is
totally
what I was
off base.
telling you.
You could be totally off base. You just don't even know it.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
dangerous. That part of I think is really dangerous.
It
Um,
is. It really is. And that's part of the reason for this podcast, because
Yeah.
in the beginning, last season, I told the audience that yes, we've been married for over 3 decades. We have seen
Mhm.
a lot of different seasons in marriage,
Yeah.
and we're not just happy. We're not just married for calendar days. We're actually happy. We are enjoying this season of our lives. We're enjoying our grandkids. We're enjoying going to visit our children. One actually lives outside the country, so that's even more fun. But we are enjoying this new season of our life. And the reason that we can do that is because we built that coming in. We
Mm,
built that over the decades. We are each other's best friends. And I do mean that in every sense of the word.
yeah.
Um, when in the early stage, we work through how we handle conflict. We didn't run. We stand 10 toes deep, and we learned the skills that we needed to learn. We didn't just let things slide. We had good conversations. We remained friends. We could talk about, and still can, any topic that whether it's politics, world issues, or just what's happening in our marriages between the two of us. But you talked about the noise, and that's one of the decisions we made early on, that our marriage circle was going to be very small.
Mm,
Our marriage influences were going to be very small. Of course, when we were younger, there was no social media. But again, we looked at other marriages and decided that I don't like the way that person is treating that person. I wouldn't want to be treated that way, so I'm not going to implement that in my marriage. And we didn't just hang around couples that were only saying the things that we wanted to hear, the things that tickled our ears. We
yeah.
did the difficult things, you know. My husband will go to the men's conferences to learn how to be a good husband, a godly, father, and those things. And I would do the same. And then we would we invest in couples conferences where we couldn't afford therapy or counseling in those days. So we would go to conferences once a year to at least, get taught on how we need to navigate marriage to where, we have a healthy relationship legacy left behind. And I
Mm,
don't know if there's a lot of couples that are trying to make that investment. I think a
yeah.
lot of it is um I see certain people doing this, so let me try this. And so we start missing, where we need to be. But at the same point is how do I focus on what's good for me? That's the whole
Yeah.
idea of having these different guests on the show,
Yeah.
because the way you do marriage, it may be completely different than the way I do it. It
Absolutely.
doesn't, we're not talking about wrong or right. It's determining what are your non-negotiables. Because I mean, for me, my husband doesn't care if I cook or not. That's not important to him. But
Mm,
there are some spouses that no, we can't get married if you don't know how to cook. That's
yeah.
important to them.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
And so a good marriage is not decided by whether I can cook or not, but it may be for you. You
Yeah.
know,
And I stopped, I stopped doing, I've been been trying to be very mindful and stop doing the comparison game.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
just in general, like
hmm,
where people are at in life, in a career sense, or what kind of
yeah,
house people are in, or what kind of extracurricular, vacation stuff that people are able to do, and how what um their marriage looks like. And I'm not saying like I don't see things in marriage that I'm like, that's awesome the way they are. It's
yeah,
more like I have to be um my husband's biggest advocate. Like he
yeah,
has his strengths, he has his weaknesses. Same for
yeah,
me too, you know? And I
mm-hmm,
can't look at my friend's marriage and say, well, he's just such a social butterfly, you
yeah.
know? Like you're saying, every marriage is different. And so I think when I stopped doing the comparison game, I stopped putting labels on like what love looks like, you know?
Yes. Yes. That to me, that is like probably one of the most important pivotal moments of every good marriage.
Mm,
I truly believe that because now you're looking within.
yeah,
Yeah, this is us right here. What is it that I'm grateful for that you are my person. I am so grateful that for me, I was able to, I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years.
yeah,
The only way I could have done that is because you are here as, the provider and you're not complaining about it. You're not making me feel guilty for not going to work, or you're
yeah,
not,
yeah.
saying that I have to, or, one way or the other. Working was always optional for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's that's such a good point because I remember when we bought our very first home in Maryland, little 1,200, I think it was about 1,200 square feet. And I love my little house. I was so excited about, I'm like, "Twilight, I bought the house. Yes."
Yeah.
And it was probably about a month later, we visited somebody else's house. Their house was probably about 4 or 5,000 square foot. And
Yeah.
I came back to my little house and I was like, when are we gonna buy that house? And he's
Right.
like, "What? Girl, we just bought the house. What are you talking about?" And that comparison, just the house got me to a point where I said, okay, I can't do this. Because that somebody, I think the quote is comparison is the thief of all joy.
Yes.
And it really does steal your joy. You don't get to actually enjoy what you actually have.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
if I can touch on, you saying I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. I never had to decide if work was not, it was optional, right? If you wanted to go work. And that was my experience too.
Yeah.
Um, I think what I think if I'm being very honest in reflecting back, um, I think I put a lot of undue stress on myself
Mm-hmm.
about, um, some sort of guilt maybe,
Yeah.
and then I projected it onto him, like, he'd been adamant. He had told me the words came out of his mouth, "I don't care if you work or not,"
Yeah.
right? In other conversations, though, we would say, "Because I'm the only person working, there are certain limitations as
Yes.
to what we do." And so
Exactly.
when I would come to him with like, "Well, why aren't we doing this?" Or, "Why can't we do this?" It's like, there's a limitation there. He's like,
Yeah.
"If you choose to work, then that opens more doors to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do some things." And so instead of reading that as what it is,
Mm-hmm.
just it's math. It's math
Yeah.
is what it
Exactly.
um,
It's economics.
it's no, I internalize that as I'm not doing enough, or I'm lazy, or um,
Mhm.
ungrateful, For so many years, I would just internalize that. Sorry.
Mhm. That's okay.
Um, and then somehow like twist it into like it's his fault or
Yeah.
something, you know? And I regret that because I think there was a lot of undue stress that I caused the both of us.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it led to him feeling like I'm not doing enough for her because she's
Yeah.
not satisfied in some level.
Yeah.
I hate
Mm.
that. I really do hate that. I'm
Yeah.
glad that I'm in a place where I can say that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. And I totally get it because um I had those moments to, like you said, the limitations, the vacations that we couldn't take,
Yeah,
the memories that I wanted to make for my kids but couldn't. And, deciding that, hey, we wanted to trade that for our kids having a healthy, because I homeschool too. So part of that was having
yeah,
a healthy home life, healthy school and all that, but it goes back to, again, we don't know. We don't know what we don't know,
Yeah.
you know, and it gets to a point where we have to take our past experiences, use it as data, and then forge forward.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't work. Let me, this these words invoke this type of emotion. Let me not do that. Let me not say that. You know,
Yeah.
being honest with each other. And so that kind of lead me into the communication, because that's always a challenging thing for marriages, especially young marriages, how we communicate with each other. How do we leave each other feeling once we're done communicating? Because my little communication framework that I work with clients on is, hey, always establish an outcome. What's the outcome of this conversation? What is it that I want them to get out of it? Do I want to convince them of something? Am I just
Yeah.
venting, or am I looking for some type of action? And so once we determine that, we can usually, forge through a healthy exchange. But a lot of times we go into the conversation with an expectation, not necessarily an outcome. We expect something to happen and it doesn't, it goes left, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you
Yeah.
speak to some of those early, communication expectations that you had?
Gosh. Yeah. I think I'm such a uh, for me, I do a lot of internal thinking. I do
Mhm.
this with not just my husband, but with my friends, and I
Yeah.
end up making a lot of I just have full-blown conversations in my head.
I
Like,
just
you know what I mean?
there's a whole person living in there.
It's a whole person living in there, and my husband is living in here, and he's already answered the conversation I'm about to have with him. And so when the conversation doesn't go the way my head
It's
has imagined will answer, I'm left feeling like, that wasn't it. Let's beat the dead horse until that's been probably my problem. I'm
yeah,
so stubborn that I'm like, "No, no, no. This is not the way that this conversation was meant to go. You were supposed to understand my grievance."
right.
You know? And he's just like sometimes he's just like, "But that's not the way I feel." I'm like, "But."
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
And we
That
are I am a Taurus, he is a Cancer, and so he's just kinda like, "Yeah, let's just, it's cool, it's whatever," right? And I'm just like, "It's not cool." It's n um, yeah,
oh, yeah.
and so, uh and I've told this is so I hate to even admit it, but this is so damaging,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is about a learned experience
Mhm,
or just the way my brain operates,
mhm,
but oftentimes in, like, a real fight, if I don't get a similarly expressed if I'm angry about something,
mhm,
if I don't get that same angry energy from my
mhm,
husband, if he's
mhm.
not fighting back in the same way, I somehow in my brain compute it as he is not feeling as passionate as I am about it,
Right, right.
or he doesn't care.
There. Yep.
I don't know why my brain leaps to that. And I've told him, I said, "I don't know why, but I want you to get angry too." He's like,
Yeah.
"So that's what you want from me? For both of us to get angry and what, not be able to resolve anything?" It doesn't make any kind of sense. It makes 0 sense. In that moment, though, I'm like, "Yes. Let's
Yes, that's what I
out.
need.
Get
That's what I
out."
need.
Yeah. And, like, it infuriates me even more when he's like, "Well, I'm not gonna go there. I don't
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm
It's
not
like
gonna go there." I'm like,
somebody have to maintain the peace around here.
yes, yes, and I'm hoping that, like, in my sort of age and wisdom, like, I
Yeah.
really truly pray for this is probably my biggest prayer
Mm,
all time, is just, like, soften my heart, that I
yes.
don't have this need to feel right or
Yeah,
convinced that I've convinced somebody else, like, "This is my point of view, and you really, really, really see it."
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that goes back to like entitlement that I
Yeah.
feel entitled for you to truly inside and out understand and validate my feelings.
Yeah. In the same sense, not realizing that our husbands, they also need their feelings validated. They
Yes.
also need that. They also need to know that what they're feeling is legit. It's hey, I they need to hear that as well. There's
Yeah.
this scripture in Proverbs 4:23. It says, guard your heart with all diligence because out of it flows the issues of life. And I think regardless of what religion you are, that can resonate because everything, all of who we are coming, it's coming out of here. It's coming
Yeah.
from the inside out.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so if we're guarding our hearts, we are watching what we say, how we say it, what's coming in, how we're, what's actually influencing what we say and how we say it to our spouse. And I always remind couples that because I had to get there, but this is your best friend.
Yeah.
It's your person. This is your advocate. And if this is the person that we say nowadays, that's my emergency contact. That's the
Mhm.
person that will show up for me in whatever situation it is. And so they deserve the best of me.
Yeah.
Well, when I show up and start talking, does what is what I'm saying hurting or harming their feelings or their emotions, or are they being validated? Are they feeling, amazing when they walk away from me, or do they feel depleted and just unaccepting, or, whatever that negative, positive feeling is?
Yeah.
How do I leave them feeling? You know,
Yes. Yeah.
and I don't think we think about that enough. You
No,
know,
yeah. I
I have
think
I have those moments sometimes, Ayaka, where I have to go back and I said, um, I didn't mean to say, because I know what's in my own heart, whether he
Mhm.
took it away or not.
Yeah.
You know, I know what I was feeling. I wanted to, I'm in a hurry and I don't have time to talk about whatever it is you're trying to talk about.
Yeah.
And I will go back and I said, hey, I didn't mean to dismiss you, like that. My bad. And he's like, oh, you're fine. I wasn't even thinking about that. And most of the time he's not, but I know what's in here, you
Yeah.
know. And in those moments, speaking of the topic of communication, I know when I've done him wrong. And
Mhm.
so I would hope that whether or not our spouses take it as us as being wronged, that we will still own it and go back to them, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Apologize quickly if you know you've said or done something to harm your spouse. Do it quickly. Don't wait around for 3, 4 days because it festers and it grows into something else,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. No, I agree with that. I
Yeah.
do think that, like, so my youngest is we had kids, like, back to back. So our kids are almost 12, 10, almost 9, and 6. So we were
Oh,
just this last 10 years has been babies, babies,
yeah.
Um, and I struggled with postpartum. Um, it was just a lot. It was a lot. Motherhood was way, way more challenging than I ever expected it to be.
Mhm.
I think on top of that, staying at home, my husband is in law enforcement and he's never had up until very recently, he's
Mhm.
never had a schedule that was, um, set in stone. Like,
Like
every 3
formal.
months every 3 months he'd be like, "Well, I'm on graveyards, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday." And then, like, as a stay-at-home mom before the kids had gone to school, it was like, "Okay, well, the weeks don't really like, the weeks and the weekends don't really have any kind of meaning to me. It's
Right, right. It's just
your work
days.
schedule then becomes our weekend, right?
Right, right,
However that
right.
worked. Then we, like, added in the element of now the kids are in school, so it's like a Monday through Friday situation,
Yeah.
activities on Saturdays, and so I think we were so and we don't have any family support
Mm,
around
yeah, yeah.
here, you know?
Yeah,
So we don't have, like, a support system to say, "Hey, can I drop off these 2 kids to you because I gotta get over here, and he's
yeah.
working graveyards," and I think we were just so lost in the busyness of our lives
Yeah.
that we grew quite distant. And now that my youngest is in kindergarten, we have a little bit more breathing room, and
Hmm.
it's palpable. We can feel that.
Yeah.
And the kids are just a little bit more independent. And I think we're getting a little bit better sleep
Yeah. Right.
generally. You'd be surprised at just how much lack of sleep will lead to that quick argument about why didn't the dishwasher get unloaded? You know?
Absolutely.
Like all those
Yeah.
things. Um, and so I'm really excited about kind of this next chapter of like the kids becoming teenagers. Like, you know, um,
Yeah.
but
I
we're still
want,
we're such a work in progress still.
and I think every marriage is because I measure the years in seasons, not
Mhm.
just 12-month periods. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
plus there was a military season because I was active duty.
Okay.
Um, so we've moved. That's part of the reason why I got out. We were moving too many times. Our
Yeah,
children have roots anywhere. One was born in another country. One was born in some other parts of the world, and so we didn't have that root. I did have my mom because so she played such a intricate role in my kids growing up. But that was that was our life. That was that period of child rearing, and I always thought, okay, can't wait for the teenage years. Well, guess what? That came with its own challenges, you
yes,
know.
yeah,
And but one of the things that we were always adamant about is our relationship, our friendship. We take the time out and we explain to our kids, listen, we're gonna do a date night. We have a basement, we're gonna watch a movie, you guys go to bed, go play, whatever you do. This is just our little time here. Because again, being a homeschool mom, I was with them literally from the moment they wake up till they go to bed all the
yeah,
time, you know.
yes,
So we had to be intentional about picking time or setting time for each other. It was great because we did have mom where they could, fly unaccompanied minor to Florida and just be with mom for the summer. So that
yeah,
was, we had that space. But I noticed that had we not been intentional about it, the time would have just kept marching on and the kids would have been grown and we wouldn't have known who this other person is sitting on the couch.
yeah. I think, um, I think it's become even more difficult just in the last 10 years. I've noticed how
Yeah.
much more dependent both my husband and on the world is on our phones.
Yeah.
And you really, really like, I almost have thought about like doing some kind of like unplug from your phone retreat. Like,
Yes.
because it's that serious. It really
Yes.
is because I'm stuck on this thing. I
Yeah.
am stuck on it.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit, like, I don't drink. I don't have very many vices. Like, I'm pretty diligent about making sure that I work out.
Mhm.
Um, but this is an addiction, 100%. And
Yeah.
it does take us away from each other, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the intentionality comes back because
Yeah.
what I end up doing on my phone is I have set timers.
Yeah.
So of course, any app that takes away my focus, I have a timer on it. And when that thing shuts down, okay, it shuts
I
down. And then I
can't.
just move, to doing other things. So again, it goes back to the intentionality. Can we intentionally set time, for each other?
Yeah.
Because I think the world is always going to pull from us. I mean, we have to make that decision to say, okay, no, nope, I'm cutting that off. Not everything needs my attention. That's my new mantra.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So one of the things you also talked about on your application was I wanted to know what were some of the things that you thought was responsible for your marriage longevity, and what can you speak to longevity? And I love what you said about um, validating your spouse's hurts, taking accountability, admitting when you're wrong. And
Yeah.
I know I'll be the first one to say taking accountability doesn't feel all nice and pushy. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, say taking accountability and, because I think accountability breeds safety. It allows our spouse to be able to come back to us at another time and share their grievance or raise, difficult, difficult topics. So
Yeah.
what does that look like for you?
Um, I think it's partly you have to put down your ego that like there is only one way to do things.
Hmm.
And that as much as my husband and I are a unit, he has a right to how he feels about the way things happened or, transpired.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I think as a woman, I am so uh transparent with like, this made me feel this way. We're so used to talking about our feelings. It's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily that way with my husband. Um, and so on those kind of more rare occasions when we're just like the two of us, the kids are sleeping and we get into like a deeper conversation, I find myself just listening. Um,
Nice.
and honoring that, like that I don't have to interject like, well, this is how I interpret that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because he's not much of a he has a lot to say, but like about a lot of other things, not necessarily his feelings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just like kind of relish and like try to slow it down, like I really try to be like, let's slow it down. I'm just going to digest what you're telling me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I think even me just saying, yeah, like as he's talking, just being like, yeah,
Yeah.
agree. Or, like it doesn't have to be super wordy.
Yes.
Him to feel like, okay, I can tell my wife all of these things and it can just be that way.
Yeah. Not necessarily looking for a solution.
Mhm.
Just, I just want to talk. I just want to
Honest
get this out, you
Yeah.
know. And I get it, especially being in law enforcement, he has to be on all the time, you
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
know. And so being home is that place where he doesn't have to be on. He
Mhm.
doesn't to, you know, what I said, the adrenaline running or,
Yeah. Yeah.
flowing all the time. You
Absolutely.
can really slow down and just, relax in the moment, relax in the relationship, relax in the safety, of it. Because I always say the way that you and I react to a concern when it's raised, it sends the message to our spouse whether or not they are safe enough to raise another issue. Because
Mhm.
when the shutdown happens, or that's when the comfort, what is it, comfortability shows up. I am comfortable with my wife to talk about this,
Yeah.
or I will never bring that up again. So we're sending that message one way or the other based on how we react. And so when we are welcoming, that opens up that door. Man, this time really go by so fast, and I think in every single podcast. But I know, I really think that, especially as wives that are, business owners are now in, the corporate space, we
Mhm.
take a lot of the things that we've learned from marriage, whether it's accountability, whether it's, healthy communication, and we take those same characteristics into business. So tell me how you marry the two. How does how you show up as a wife and say manager of the home, how do you translate all of that into your business, and how do you marry the two?
Yeah. So, I've like just recently entered back into the workforce. And
Mhm.
when my youngest had gone into kindergarten, I said, you know what, when he starts kindergarten, I really don't want to do anything for the first however many months. I said, I have been a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
I just want to be chill, just chill and have the opportunity to have a silent house. And I did that and I loved it.
Mm.
Um, I remember praying and I said, I just want a job that's not going to blow up my entire life, that gives me joy, that I want to show up excited about every day, and that
Nice.
they value that I have 4 kids at home, a
Mhm.
husband who works 12-hour days. I mean, my laundry list was long. Give me the perfect situation that they're like flexible about, yeah, if you need to go pick up your kids, or yeah,
Yeah.
you can only work until this time because you got to go pick up your kids. I was like, I don't know if that exists. I don't. I prayed
Yeah.
on it, waited, and then something just like honestly landed in my lap.
Yeah.
Um, and so now and it's kind of just like grown very organically.
Yeah.
Um, into this amazing position. I work for Promo Supply House. We're a branded merchandise and promotional marketing company. They
Mhm.
are a woman-owned, veteran-operated
Wow.
small business,
Yeah.
and um, we work out of their home for right now. They're trying to move
Mm.
into an office, but what's interesting is that it's just the three of us.
Yeah.
My boss Dane, his wife Sahara. They kind
Mm.
of operate different sides of the business, and then
Mhm.
and I see marriage at play every day.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I can.
And I've even said to them, "I commend you guys
Yeah.
because I see it's not even quarrels, it's just kind of like they're operating in like, "Okay, we needed to get this done." You
Mhm.
know, I talked about having this part done. What happened to that? You dropped the ball. And
Yeah.
they're just so they're able to communicate, not aggressively, but firmly,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
Um, And then be able to put that down at the end of the day and say, "Well, yeah, we're best friends. We love each
Yeah.
other." But
Yeah.
there's a way to operate during business hours too, you know? Um,
Mhm.
and so I get to kinda see that dynamic play out. And I work more closely with Dane, and he's like, "You're not my wife, but there's a lot of like, we need to have a rapport where we can be able to tell each other exactly what's on our minds. If
Yeah.
I do something to offend you, if I do something that's not helpful,
Mhm.
likewise, I want to be able to tell you, like, hey, whatever happened here isn't working." And I'm just
Right.
so grateful for that because I'm like, there's a certain amount of separation that I have that I'm lucky to have because I work for them, I'm employed by them, they've become what I consider to be friends,
Yeah.
but I also get to say, "Okay, I'm done for the day and I'm leaving," you know?
Right. You get to walk away from it all. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so what's been interesting, really, really interesting is that, um, I've tried not to hold back
Mhm.
because I think it benefits everybody to be able to say, you know, "Hey, I have this need in order to perform better here at work,"
Yeah.
and it's usually like, "Okay, we'll show up for you in that way."
Mhm.
That doesn't always happen instantly in marriage,
Right.
whether because there's a limitation there or because
Mhm.
the other person hasn't grown to a place where they can give it.
You have to accommodate that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what's
Yeah.
interesting is, like, you can apply, like, it's kinda giving me a backbone, both
Mhm.
professionally and then in my marriage to be like, "You know what? Um the way I operate there, I can operate here too,
Yes. Yeah.
effectively, kindly, um,
Mhm.
and be able to meet everybody's needs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think, like, my personality has always been like, "Just bury it.
Mm.
You feel wronged, if you feel slighted, if you" that burying has always led to me feeling like some kind of internal thought about myself, not
Yeah.
good enough, not being this enough. And
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
this is it's a clean slate. It's a
Yeah.
clean slate for me to just be in my own strength.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I think it's compounding on itself, and I love sort of the version of myself that's growing,
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
always been there that maybe I just never had the confidence for.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And
Mm,
I hopefully wanna say that, like, because working out of their house, just the 2 of them, that can
mhm.
feel isolating too.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Mhm.
they're like, yes, they love each other. Yes, they're best friends, but also if you're only just seeing each other and that's your work, and so
Mm,
you're not your office and your house, I think there is a part of them that enjoys my company being there too, you know?
yeah. Add to the dynamic. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
been great.
Yeah. Last season, I had the opportunity to interview one couple. Well, I never say interview, had a discussion with one other couple. They run a business together out of Orange County. And that's one of the questions I always have, for them. Always, whatever audience it is, I've had them on panels that say, hey, talk to folks about how to actually run your marriage and a business all at the same time. When do
Yeah.
you take your hat off and say, honey, thank you for doing this, thank you for showing up, versus, hey, Greg, I need you to show up this way. I need this. I need this report. That boss hat. How do go between the two and leave the work emotions at work and the marriage emotions at home? And
Yeah.
that's always a fun conversation because I told my husband from day one, babe, I love you, but I
I can't
cannot,
work with you.
no
I can't.
way, it's just not happening. No
Mhm.
way. No,
Mhm.
because he is so meticulous sometimes that it just, oh, okay, honey. I love you and I love that you're in my life. Obviously, I need that because I am that person where every idea that jumped in my head, I think I need to get on it right now and I need to do it right now. I don't
Yeah.
look at the pros and cons and all of that, but I
You're
need
just like,
him in
doing
my
it.
life.
Yeah.
Huh?
You're just like, "I'm doing it."
Yes, I just jump off the cliff. And on the way down, it's like, oh shoot, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. But that's what I really believe that's what God has put him in my life for. He is such a stabilizer that said,
Mhm.
okay, before we do that, let's consider this and this and this and this. And of course, over the decades, I've so learned to trust that wisdom and know that, hey, for one, it's not about me. He's not coming against me. What he's really doing is providing that perspective that is helping us to make, what is it, calculated risk,
Yeah.
smart risk. It's still a
Yeah.
risk, but we have basically considered all the possibilities, all the options before stepping out there. And that is so, to me, that's gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's truly part of, like, the beauty of marriage is
Yes.
that, it is a choice, but I think it's almost kismet that the 2 of you, you know, were brought together. Because I think about that and I'm like, "Man, like, there are millions and millions of people out there, but he's the one I found in the circumstance that we found each other."
You're right.
And if you have enough grace,
Hmm.
if you have enough, ability to just let your guard down, let your ego go, that
Yeah.
it will your qualities, his strengths, your strengths will kinda just go like this, ideally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what marriage is, that you're not competing for who is better, it's like, "You're better here,
Yes.
and I'm
Yeah.
able to serve you in this way, and I'm able to serve you in that way," and that we just are, like, grateful for that because yeah, you could do it on your own, but man,
Yeah.
ugh, that'd be tough.
Yeah. And I always say life is life is life is good on my own. I can do life on my own.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I can. I know how to do this. But it is so much cooler with him.
Mhm.
So much cooler with him. And with that, I will say we'll wrap with this.
Yeah.
Uh give the audience one I don't know if you can do it in one, but however many it takes. What would you say is the top thing you wish somebody had said to you when before you got married or when you just got married to navigate your relationship? What would that be, that nugget that you leave our audience with?
Mm, I would say that there are going to be times where you may not like your spouse,
Mm-hmm.
but you continue to love your spouse.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean you failed. Doesn't mean
Mm,
there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with him.
correct.
Um, Also just to get out of your own way. If you are too serious like I am, maybe lighten up a little bit.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
if your
Yeah.
husband is like for my husband, if he is maybe too nonchalant about things, maybe he needs to, you know, shape up a little. All of these things that you need to be willing to better yourself,
Yeah.
not just for you, but for your other person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So good. So good. Oh my gosh. Ayaka, thank you so much for
Thank you.
sitting down with me. This has been such an amazing conversation. We went all over the place and I loved it. I so love it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of The State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It. Again, I am your host, Karen Williams, and I encourage you to subscribe, share this podcast with a friend. You know that one friend that keep calling you about their marriage, that one. Share it with them and subscribe. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me on The State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It.